Welcome to TMRN, the Time Monk Radio Network. I'm Green Meadow, and today is Sunday, the 9th of October, 2011. We are delighted to spend an evening with Dennis McKenna. Dennis has a PhD in ethnopharmacology and is a founding member of the Hefter Institute, which researches psychedelics in order to contribute greater understanding of the mind, leading to the improvement of the human condition and the alleviation of suffering. He is the brother of Terrance McKenna, who has become an icon of the psychedelic revolution and is known for the Timewave Zero concept. Dennis is currently working on a memoir of his experiences with Terrance called The Brotherhood of the Screaming Abyss, which is due to be published in the fall of 2012. Hi, Dennis. Welcome to the Time Monk Radio Network Roundtable.
Hello. Pleasure to be here. Nice to meet you all in virtual space for the moment.
Yeah.
Maybe someday we'll run across each other in meet space.
We're delighted to have you. The WebBot Forum administrator and producer of this show is Fox. Tonight he will be doing the recording and technical support of the show. Several members of the forum were kind enough to join us this evening. Please welcome members Wang Shan, Neil, M. Sanchez, Lenny, Five Cook, and Groundrog. For our listeners, this interview will assume you have a good understanding of Dennis's work. You can find out more about Dennis on the YouTube videos of his lectures and at hefter.org. You can find more information about his book, The Brotherhood of the Screaming Abyss, at Kickstarter.com. This interview will be available on YouTube and free on the WebBot Forum channel and at the website webbotforum.com. Dennis, are you comfortable and ready for the interview?
Yes, I guess so.
Excellent.
Before I was getting ready for this, I was just in the process of writing a letter to just about everybody I can find about the murders of the shaman that is taking place in the Amazon. I don't know if you've heard about this.
No.
I think I'm pretty shocked. There was a article in the Peruvian newspaper La Repubblica, and that was picked up by the Guardian UK in England, and that's where I heard about it. But apparently up in the Yuramoguas area, which is further, it's not near Iquitos, it's further east in the Loreto province. But there is they're basically I mean, it's not funny, it's really tragic. There is a band of militant and essentially evangelist terrorists that are going around murdering these shamans. And about 14 shamans have been murdered up in that area, and they have identified the mayor of this town and his cousin or his brother or somebody as being, the instigators of this. And apparently that Protestants are, Protestant missionaries and evangelicals are quite active in this area. And, they basically say, these shamans are witches, they have the devil in them, and they have to be killed. And they managed to knock off 14 of them so far. And this is just very tragic.
Yeah. Because it sounded like that a lot of people have been going to the area almost as a tourism or as a walkabout to have a spiritual experience. And that it was a positive thing for the area to have a shaman.
Well, it is. It is a positive thing. I mean, for the communities, but the evangelicals, shamans are competition, right, to their missionary, and they have, they have a mindset that, anyone who practices traditional healing, especially if they use ayahuasca or any of these things, is basically possessed by demons, or they are demons. And they need to be exterminated. So as a result, these people are. Apparently, there's about 14 have disappeared so far. They found 7 They've recovered 7 bodies. 7 are still missing, and it's just a very bad situation. I know this is kind of off topic for what we were going to talk about, but I think this is important. And if you Google this, if you go to the Foundation for Shamanic Studies, they have very helpfully provided a bunch of addresses where you can write letters. The UN High Commissioner on Human Rights, the President of Peru, all the ambassadors, and so on. And I think it's important if you're part of this ayahuasca community, or just if you respect traditional knowledge, to let people know about this and write a letter yourself and let people know. There needs to be some kind of an investigation. I mean, there's basically these are atrocities that are going on up there.
Yeah, we're all about the preservation of knowledge and the sharing of knowledge. So thank you for this information.
So on a more, we can move on to other topics.
Okay. So the first question in the interview is, psychedelics are a tool, and most tools are more effective at certain things. I wouldn't want to try and use a saw to hammer a nail, for example. What do you think psychedelics are most effective at? What purposes do shamans tend to use psychedelics for? And what are psychedelics not good at?
One of the things is they're a tool for understanding and studying consciousness, and not just how it works in the brain, but they can tell us a lot about that, but they can also tell us about the phenomenology of consciousness. And, I don't know if some of you are probably familiar with the work that Roland Griffiths is doing at Johns Hopkins, using psilocybin to study mystical experiences and this sort of thing. That is an example of the kind of things that psychedelics make possible. And the idea that one could study mystical experiences from a scientific standpoint is pretty radical, and actually would not sit well with many people who tend to think these things are off limits. But what it proves is that you can actually study these states of mind, and from an experimental standpoint. So I think that's one of the important contributions that psychedelics make. And then I think the other is, obviously the possible therapeutic uses, the uses to treat mental problems or just to assist spiritual advancement, spiritual development, and in some cases to actually address mental illnesses like depression, like obsessive compulsive disorder, anxiety for people that are dying, and this sort of thing. And this is all in the literature. There's nothing really radical about this. So those are two of the ways that psychedelics can be useful, for therapy and also just as tools to understand consciousness.
How do shamans tend to use psychedelics? Do they use them differently than we're using them, or?
Well, shaman, yeah. There's shaman almost always use them for healing. They are a double-edged sword. They can be used for black magic. In South America, it's called brujeria. They can, like any tool, they can be misused, right? Tools themselves don't have any moral, qualities. It's the way that people use them that makes the difference. But shaman in their traditional cultures, they use them really for healing. They use them as a diagnostic tool, right? In one way, they can, in the visions, they can kind of approach a situation. They can tell what's wrong with a person. And usually in those cultures, at least in South America, it's there's always a spiritual component, right? Or there's always a psychodynamic component. It's not they don't understand diseases in quite the same way we do as things having physical causes. There may be physical causes, but there's usually a psychological reason or a spiritual reason why you got sick, or maybe somebody is envious and has put a hex on you. And ayahuasca, at least, is used to address all those kinds of things and to kind of arrive at remedies. And some of those remedies may involve the use of other plants. I mean, if it's a physical illness, the ayahuasca might suggest to the shaman what plants to use to treat that, how to prepare them. And then on the spiritual side, it might say, well, you have to do some exorcism, or you have to actually do, some sort of battle with an evil shaman if that person has put a hex on the person you're trying to treat, and they have that perspective on it. So in that sense, they use the psychedelic tools that they use are multifunctional, but they basically have to do with healing or causing harm to people on some kind of spiritual plane.
Yeah, the whole holistic approach towards health, that it's not just a body malfunction, makes more sense to me. So what is psychedelics not good at?
What are they not good at? Well, I'm not sure what you mean.
Sometimes people misuse things, or they have a misunderstanding of what psychedelics are really appropriate for.
Right. I don't know. I mean, using psychedelics is usually such a very personal thing that I think psychedelics are probably not good for, if you're into NASCAR racing or something like that, probably not so good for that, the whole thing with psychedelics is you want to, as Leary and all these people have harped since the 60s, it's all about set and setting, right? And you are deliberately putting yourself in a place where you don't want to have to deal with the ordinary day-to-day challenges of living. You don't want to necessarily take them in a public place where you have to maintain. It's much better to do them in a setting where you don't really have to worry about what's happening around you, or you don't have to maintain some kind of a social situation, unless you're taking them in a place where everybody else is loaded too, and it's sort of expected that that's okay. You just want to use them you need to use them thoughtfully and consciously. I mean, people do use them recreationally, and I have no problem with recreation. I mean, I think that's fine. I think it's fine. One of the aspects of psychedelics that's important is intent. Why are you taking it? Why have you